What's up, everybody? You're back in here with the Pro Football Pod. We've got the boys, Coach hanging out down here. Austin's over there. Your boy Hulk's here running the show. We've got, earlier this week, we gave you our favorite drafts of the week. These are the ones that we weren't the biggest fans of. Nonetheless, we love all players that are drafted. It's an opportunity to get better. What's up, boys? Are you excited to get into this? Are you a little downtrodden?
We're not trying to crush dreams. We're just trying to be realistic. You know, maybe these players didn't fit these teams in the right way. Maybe this team should have picked.
Maybe these teams were a little. It was just kind of confusing on what they drafted. You know,
it just seems like
befuddled.
these teams didn't get better. A lot of teams, like the ones from our first episode this week, they improved so much. Like they're not going to draft in the top 5 again next year. They're looking
when there
to
was
potentially
talent there, they took it.
Exactly. And then there's some teams that just did not. And I think starting it off real hot and heavy, everyone's expecting it. The Atlanta Falcons, nobody understands what they were thinking at the 8th pick.
Now, this is what I was like pre-show and stuff. This is what I was meaning I wanted to get into. While it was shocking and I do not agree with the pick, I understand their thought process on it. Kirk Cousins is a 36-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury, season ending.
Okay.
By them getting Michael Penix Jr., they don't, like you just mentioned, they do not expect to be picking this high again. Their goal is to be picking in the 20s, 30s. So with that in mind, God forbid anything happens with Kirk or he just comes back from the injury and he's not the same. Pray, he doesn't get injured again. You have a solid fallback plan to allow you to continue and try to win let's be honest, a very winnable division.
So he
let
went
me
as
just
the
throw
fourth
this out
quarterback
here for you. Let me throw this out here. There's so many guys that could have filled that spot though. Like if you're talking about a guy just to be a backup on a team, like you have your guy in Kirk that you're paying.
Michael Penix isn't a backup on a team though. Michael Penix is the future of that team. I think that I had him as my number 4 quarterback. Like if Kirk Cousins didn't get signed, and that's the big thing. They were picking at 8. Why did they pay Kirk Cousins $140 million guaranteed over the next 2.5 seasons?
And that's the big thing is it's the money that was guaranteed to Kirk. Now, it really doesn't matter in retrospect with Penix because he's a rookie on a rookie contract. Like you're basically getting 2 quarterbacks for the price of 1.
In 2 years, you're going to be paying him $20 million.
But that's where, yes, it's a 4-year deal with Kirk, but they realistically have an out after 2.
They only have to pay him $12 million after 2 years.
And I know you bring this up all the time with the ages of these guys being 23, 24 years old whenever they're drafted. The NFL doesn't necessarily see it that way. To them, there's not a big difference, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. When these quarterbacks are playing until they're 30, 32 years old. So with that in mind, I understand the thought process behind the pick, but I absolutely do not agree with it. You either trade back and try to take him a little later or snag somebody else. But we also saw after Bo Nix went at 12, there was 150 picks before the next quarterback went.
Yeah. My other problem with them is their 2nd and 3rd round. They didn't really get a lot of value.
That's my problem with this draft.
They got Brandon Dorlus in the 4th
picks.
round, and that was a decent pick, like for the 4th round. But the linebackers that they got, they took Jace McClellan in the 6th whenever Kamani Vidal was still there. They just I could not make sense of any one of their picks.
The egregious part was the fact they came out of this with no DBs taken.
Yeah.
No corners drafted.
It was.
And they even had the gall to come out after the draft and say they didn't want to force a selection. You're not forcing anything when the only guy you have to defend a pass is AJ Terrell.
Yeah.
Thank God you have Jesse Bates on the back end, but I mean, what else do you have?
Yeah.
Like the Penix pick was shocking. It's the rest of their draft to where I like Braylon Trice. Okay. I like Brandon Dorless. Okay. Like, I like the guys they picked, but wasn't necessarily a fan of where they picked them and the other needs they had on their team. So even outside of Penix, this draft was just poo-poo.
I think this was the worst, in my opinion. I know we started with them. I felt like we needed to get out of the way. Now,
Yeah.
what other ones did you guys have? Sorry.
I'd much rather them have Joe Milton at quarterback and get him in where he was picked up in this draft. Fucking cannon of an arm.
Yeah, Joe Milton,
I
Michael
guarantee
Pratt.
he'll be a better quarterback than Michael Penix. He got slept on. I'm sorry, but he is slept on.
See, the Joe Milton
wanna
now
talk about
he's
a guy
entered the
grew
JJ
up
McCarthy
chasing
range to where
rabbits?
we're gonna have to look back now in like 2 or 3 seasons and be like, all right, Austin, when are we getting the Joe Milton show?
Yeah.
Bro, it's gonna be there as soon as Drake May goes down.
Now, Austin, another draft that you had a problem with was the Cowboys, your alma mater, your boys. And I completely understand the fact that you're upset that they didn't take a running back. I mean, you are one of the most running back needy teams
I agree.
in the whole
Did
draft.
they need one?
I think that they didn't have one before today. Before they picked up Zeke, I don't think that they had Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, let's not completely hate on Rico Dowdle here.
I'm not hating on him. I'm just saying that he's not a starting running back.
Austin's camera's frozen on us, and it is stuck on a pretty hilarious picture right now. Just
yeah, it's probably because I kicked my fucking computer. I'm so mad.
Now I did like the Cooper BB at pick 3. I'm sorry, round 3, pick 9. That was before. I think the only other running back that was taken was Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks. So right there, they had their pick of whatever running backs they wanted.
Again.
And then whenever they took Maurice Liufau, they could have taken Marshawn Lloyd from USC. And a lot of people had Marshawn Lloyd as the number 1 running back in this class. And to be able to get him at the mid to late 3rd round.
They, like my same frustrations with the Falcons not taking a corner, they had every opportunity to take a running back. Like any running back. You had 2 picks in the 3rd round. Like, what? I don't understand it. But while I say that, I'm not as low on them as you, Austin, because I do like Tyler Guyton as a prospect. I really like Marshawn Nealon out of Western Michigan as a prospect. I agree with you on the Cooper BB. Big fan of him.
Those 2 picks, but it's the Tyler Guyton that kills me.
Everything after Cooper BB was questionable to me.
Yes.
How much tape of Tyler Guyton's have you watched? Because there's not much tape to watch. I'll tell you that much.
It's not, but you're looking at the size and the athletic profile that you can hope to develop. So I understand,
but we need a guy we can plug and play right now. We don't need a developer. And it's our 1st round pick. We traded back a little bit and we just got this guy. Like, it's not.
Well, see,
you, man, it's not
the way
promising.
I see it, you traded back to get Tyler Guyton, and that trade back allowed you to take Cooper BB.
We didn't even take a player that grew up playing football. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, there's a lot of guys that have a lot of value in this league that played their first year.
Antonio Gates was a basketball player.
They played their first year as like a junior in college. And then they ended up just being the
Skill
size and speed.
No, I don't know if you know this, but Ryan Tannehill used to be a wide receiver.
Love that. My big thing was that you guys took Tyler Guyton after the Packers took Jordan Morgan. I think that I like Tyler Guyton more than Jordan Morgan. I was actually really happy that you guys were able to still get a guy like that at 29 whenever you traded back out of 24. So I'm not as low. The first 3 picks, I feel like you guys got value. After that, it seemed like Jerry Jones was in his bag of just messing everything up again.
He's scribbling on his pad over there.
Yeah.
So, Kalen Carson out of Wake Forest, that's one of the stickiest cornerbacks in the league.
I do like the Kalen Carson pick in round 5.
Pick. Also, the linebacker we picked up, like that's when we should have gotten a running back or another receiver. But
Agreed.
You did need depth at
Marshawn Lynch.
it's a
linebacker though
solid.
as well,
It's
with
also
Leighton Vander
we
Esch
also did need
retiring,
a linebacker. Like
and
huge
Micah
need.
Parsons has basically been begging for help at linebacker. Like
Yeah.
so,
And we got what's his name? Uh, Damn, it's just spacing my mind. From the Vikings, Eric
Kendricks, yeah.
Like
I
I
love him.
love him. He's great.
So another one that you weren't really that high on, Austin, was the New York Giants. Now they took Malik Neighbors at 6 and Tyler Nubin in the second round. A lot of people were commenting on our mock drafts we were doing, saying that Tyler Nubin, because of his testing, was going to fall out of the second round. We didn't believe them then, and we don't believe them now. I think that those
The proof
two picks,
is in the pudding.
yes, those two picks were very good. Everybody else, I mean, Andrew Phillips from Kentucky.
I like the Andrew Phillips, and I like the Theo Johnson pick, especially with Darren Waller being on the fence about retirement. You've got to get some athleticism in there. I love the Tyrone Tracy Jr. pick out of Purdue.
With some of the guys that were still there is my only issue.
He's
with
one
it.
of those to where he's kind of a converted wide receiver. So he gives you a little bit of that versatility vibe, which we've seen in the NFL plenty of times of these slot wide receivers converting to running back and vice versa. In round 5, I like what he can give you behind Devin Singletary. So I'm completely okay with that pick. I love Andrew Phillips. They needed help at corner. Okay with that. It sounds crazy. Malik Neighbors as a prospect is a home run of a selection.
Yep.
But I am not rolling into another season with Daniel Jones. I don't care what I've paid him.
Giving him a prospect like
Not even-
okay. Let me ask you a question. Josh Allen before he had Stephon Diggs. Like Tua before he had Tyreek Hill. A lot of these quarterbacks that were fringe talents before they had a true
Tua before
number
Tyreek
one.
or Mike McDaniel, but that's another hill we'll talk about
Agreed.
later.
Now, even Joe Burrow before he had Jamar Chase, he had a very solid first season, but it was not the same as the Joe Burrow we've seen since. I think Malik Neighbors is going to be able to elevate that team.
And Daniel Jones has not played with a wide receiver of Malik Neighbors' caliber by any means.
Jalen
So
Hyatt
I see what you're saying there. Give it, and I think that's kind of the Giants' perspective on it as well. If we're giving you this type of weapon, we've also given you Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson. Yes, you lost Saquon Barkley, but we're kind of replacing that production Moneyball style with Singletary and Tyrone Tracy and a host of other guys. This is your year. Figure it out, or next year they're absolutely looking to either go for Kirk, some veteran quarterback, or look to build a quarterback of the future in next year's draft.
Yeah.
So I do agree on that thought process there. I just hate it for Malik Neighbors.
Yes, I think Malik Neighbors hates it for Malik Neighbors. He seems to be upset to be there.
Picks like this, and also picks like Troy Franklin going in the 4th round, are why you absolutely do not hold your fantasy drafts, especially your rookie drafts, before the NFL draft has taken place.
Yeah.
Because where Troy Franklin was going in these dynasty rookie drafts at round 1, early round 2,
not at all.
You're throwing up on draft day watching him drop to the 4th round.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, that's what's
where
great.
he
I love
ended up,
that talent.
he still may give you value,
Late
but you
rounds,
probably would have taken him much later at this point if you were to redraft.
Exactly.
My biggest knock on this team and why they're on this list is because they know that they need quarterback help, and they didn't pick a single quarterback in this deep quarterback draft. Like there's so many guys that they could have taken just to take a shot on.
But
Just
they
in case your quarterback goes
got
down.
Tommy DeVito, bro.
Oh yeah, we saw how that went.
Come on, bro.
There's
I
a
agree.
typical
They
backup
did try
quarterback
to
coming
trade
into a
back.
game that nobody has film on, and they're able to play good.
They
It's
did
typical.
try to trade back from 6. They just weren't getting enough from Minnesota to do so.
And once Drake May went, nobody was giving up the capital to come up for J.J. McCarthy.
Exactly.
And no one thought Michael Penix was going at 8.
No.
Like, so I understand. This is another one. I don't hate it as much as you, but I do see where you're coming from with it. I think they kind of just pick solid guys. It's one of those that falls in the middle for me. It's not
Also,
really
like,
that
Neighbors
exciting,
being
but
upset that going there, just like, that's not good. Like starting out,
yeah.
like, you want your receiver to be excited, especially a top 5 receiver.
Now the next team, the Cleveland Browns, they didn't have a lot of picks. They also don't have. I mean, they have some needs for sure, but like a lot of their needs are even filled up with like decent veterans right now. I think that Zach Zinter is probably the only pick that I liked.
Yep.
That other than that, it's a bunch of people that I'm not a big fan of. Mike Hall
I
Jr.
like
in the second
Damari
round.
Thrash in the 5th round,
It's good
but
value, but man, there was
I'm
other people there. Like
Mike Hall Jr. at pick 22 in the 2nd round. To me, it probably made more sense in the 3rd. Like, I do think it was a reach on him there.
Yeah.
I understand the need you have at defensive tackle, giving Myles Garrett some help along that defensive line, but that one felt like a force pick. I'm with you. I love Zach Zinter, but the rest of them really just don't move the needle for me. But they didn't have many picks early, kind of all reminiscent of like what we saw with the Dolphins draft. They didn't really make too many moves. You just pick where you're at, but there's still a chance to capitalize on, at least some potential gems at those spots. And I just don't see that here.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Browns fans, comment in here if we're wrong, and please, everybody subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. But yeah, to me, this Browns draft was just if I were a Browns fan, okay, we had a draft, like we took some guys, but let's pray Deshaun Watson is worth his money next year. Like that's really where they're at.
And
They
that
didn't
Chubb
get
comes
any-
back.
Yeah, they didn't
full
get any
health.
spark picks.
Yeah, there was nothing sexy. I mean, the fact that they needed a defensive tackle so bad, and both of the guys from LSU went super late, and then so did that guy. Was it Mackay? I don't remember.
Makai Wingo,
Yeah,
Wingo, yes.
That was the one
Great
from
pickups
LSU.
for where he got-
Wingo and
yes.
Jefferson from LSU both went to Jacksonville.
yeah.
Yep, solid pickups for them.
And
Especially
the
when they
other
went,
guy that
too.
we had
Wingo was so late.
going all the time, went in like the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. Like we had him drafted constantly at the end of the draft. If we needed a defensive tackle, we were just taking. I think it was like Arizona State or something like that. It was a small school.
Now, the Bills getting Javon Solomon and Dwayne Carter just hurt my heart because
So
those
much.
we talked both of those guys up all mock draft season about how they were just kind of like our guys. Like we would take them on any team,
Well,
and the Bills
Mafia
got
must have
both
been
of them.
tuning in.
Yeah, that's what it was.
They must have. So I mean, not to poo-poo on the Browns anymore, no pun intended. Another one we kind of agreed on here was, the Titans. As far as I understand the J.C. Latham pick, they were going offensive tackle no matter what at pick 7. Joe
And
Alt was
they
gone.
got a good right.
Okay.
They needed a right tackle. They've got the top right tackle in the draft. He played every snap of right tackle most of his career.
I like it. And Tavondre Sweat to me, though, at pick 6 in the 2nd round, I feel like you could have traded back and still got him. Cedric Gray, okay. Like in the 4th round, I feel like that's about his wheelhouse for his value. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., we kind of talked about him a lot this mock draft season. Okay with that. Jaquan Jackson, Ed Reed's cousin or nephew, one of the two. So the lineage is there. Obviously, always going to like anybody tied to Ed Reed. In the 6th round, we love James Williams.
I think it's the only one of their picks that I actually was like, wow, I can't believe that they got some value right
James
there.
Williams and Jalen Harrell, both in the 7th round. So I like the back end of their draft. The front end, aside from J.C. Latham, only because of just I understand the need. For me, it kind of like along the lines of the Browns was, yeah, okay.
Who ended up getting Kitchens?
The Rams. They took him in the 2nd or the
Rams.
early 3rd.
Yep.
Rams. See, now that was a team that did solid in the draft.
Very, very solid. It's like you said, man. James Williams, Jalen Harrell, very, very solid prospects in the 7th round. It's just like for them, they needed to build out their trenches more. They only took 2 linemen, one in the 1st and one in the 2nd. And the one they took in the 2nd isn't really an athletic guy. He's just kind of a stump, like try to move me. And it's not what I want that early in the draft. Like I really want somebody.
Now, when you look at Tavondre's like his production, it's going to leave a lot to be desired. He does give you some disruption in the middle of the defense. But again, for that pick and with not having a 3rd rounder, I feel like you easily could have traded back, still got Tavondre Sweat, and picked up an extra pick in the process.
He's a lot better in the pass game, right? He's a big pass rush guy or pass blocking guy.
Kind of a little bit of both. Like Coach said, he's more of a stump. Like he's going to give you some disruption in the middle as far as just trying to collapse the pocket on you. But he's not going to be a guy that's ever going to really get you double-digit sacks. Which Christian Wilkins was a guy that wouldn't give you double-digit sacks, but Christian Wilkins was a major disruptor.
And he ate up double teams all day, every day. I don't think that this guy is like a,
not right now. And now, hopefully with some development, he is one of the guys on the bigger side of the spectrum as well. I mean, the dude's pushing 340 on a good day.
I would have way rather
366 at the combine
in the 4th or 5th where he got taken. I think that would have been such a better value for their team. Not that he's a better player than Tavondre Sweat, but just like with what you're spending on that 2nd round pick super early, there were still defensive ends. There were a lot of guys left that could have potentially added some rotational development.
There were still solid wide receivers. Like I know we talked about how it wasn't a major need, but DeAndre Hopkins isn't getting any younger, and Traylon Burks is still kind of a question mark at this point.
And this was the draft to get a receiver in.
Quentin Johnson.
Or you mean DeAndre Hopkins and they brought in Calvin Ridley.
No, I'm saying he's like Quentin Johnson.
Oh yeah,
The way they came in and just are kind of busts.
Yeah, I mean, you're just hoping for something to click with him. Hopefully with this new coaching staff, it does.
And Ridley, he needs the targets. He proved that last year. If he doesn't get 8 targets a game, he's not the same type of receiver he was in Atlanta if he doesn't get heavily targeted. He needs to get that many opportunities to be able to pop out 1 or 2 big plays. So I think that they could have brought him some help. Somebody to stretch the field a little bit. They don't really have a field stretcher besides Ridley, and I don't think that that's really his game anymore. He's not that youthful, 1st and 2nd year guy like he was before he got suspended.
No, and just to give us an even number of teams, because we've talked about 5, so to throw a team number 6 in there, because, we're going to talk about them. The Miami Dolphins. And I bring them up because, if you're in any group chat with me, you understand I was not a big fan of the selections we were making when we were making them. Now, in retrospect, I understand these selections a lot more because I've go back, look at the free agent moves, look at the team as a whole, and I realize what the Dolphins have done. After seeing the way the last season ended with all of the injuries that just derailed any hopes of making a playoff run, the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season and the wild card round just looked completely inept as a team. Well, you're going to have that whenever half your defense is missing and you have a makeshift offensive line. What the Dolphins have done in this free agency and in this offseason in general is build depth. Chop Robinson gives you depth and an elite athlete with Shaq Barrett coming in. You lost Andrew Van Ginkel, and then Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are still nursing injuries. Now you expect one of them. You expect one of them back soon, but Chop gives you the ability to wait a little longer and make sure they're 100% healthy. And I'll be the first to say, when that pass rush rotation is 100% healthy, it is going to be the best pass rotation in the league.
Wow.
Patrick Paul
over the Jets.
The rotation itself, yes. Now the Jets might would have
starters,
the Jets might would have the nod on the starters, but the rotation, the 4 or 5 deep that you can go just with your edge rushers, yeah.
I would have liked to have gotten a defensive tackle at some point to replace Wilkins going. I know that they kind of covered that in free agency, but just getting a young guy.
2, 3, 4 defensive tackles this offseason.
Yeah. I just think getting somebody young on their first contract to try to develop into another total game breaker would have made me happy. Now, Malik Washington and Taj Washington, where we drafted them, I think for a slot receiver, one of those two guys should absolutely be working out to where they don't need to start River Craycraft at all. Like, he should not have to. I love River, but he's also white and not going to be.
Whoa.
I mean, Luke McCaffrey's white, but
we've got skills
only from the waist up.
We've got the skills that kills. No, for all Dolphins fans have been shouting, we need a slot guy.
Yeah.
And so they went ahead and said, hey, we're going to give you 2 guys who are kind of cut of the same mold, and let's just see how they fit into the system. Patrick Paul in the second, that was one where I understood the need of the position. I'd been begging for offensive line, predominantly guard. More of a project, but Teron Armstead has 1 foot out the door. You need the guy to develop behind him.
And Patrick Paul has gone to like a camp that Teron Armstead has been running for the last couple of years. So he's already worked really closely with Teron. So I think that there might be a little bit of a relationship there. That's part of why we took him, is that we know what he needs to develop in. And Mike McDaniel is a offensive line guru. Everyone gives him all the credit for these wide receivers and this passing game. But ever since he was in San Francisco, what he does is develop phenomenal offensive lines. Not with phenomenal talent. He just has a phenomenal scheme, and he's able to bring these guys in and make them into a very good starting caliber.
And the offensive line coach they brought in last season, Butch Berry. I mean, he's starting to get his flowers here, and these next 2 guys as well, Chop Robinson, Patrick Paul, they traded up for Jalen Wright in the 4th, traded a 3rd next year. Okay, you're going to have 3 thirds, so go ahead and give one up. Fits the system that you want. He's excellent in pass protection. Mm-hmm. And then Muhammad Kamara in round 5, another edge guy, but an elite athlete, and is just going to give you another bullet in that rotation there for you. And those first 4 guys I named, when it came out after they were drafted, all 4 of them, this was the place they wanted to be.
Yeah.
Like Miami specifically was the place they were hoping to get drafted. Obviously, everybody just hopes to get drafted in general, but you'd love to see like the guys that you draft are instantly buying in because they want to be there.
The culture fit is perfect. Jalen Wright was our consensus top 4 running back. All of us had him in our top 4. I think
coming like before the draft, he was number 2. Right behind Jonathan Brooks.
There was a big run on running backs that went after him, but there was another run in the 3rd with all the guys that Dallas missed out on. So being able to get him, and him plus Achane plus Mostert is absolutely the fastest running back room in the league.
And at first, he was another one where I was like, what are they doing? Why are they trading up here for a running back? You've got Achane and Mostert and Jeff Wilson. Well, when you do look at it in perspective, like I was so told, every one of the Dolphins running backs were on IR at some point last season. Mostert's on the wrong side of 30. Jeff Wilson, while he is a solid running back, really doesn't have the necessary athleticism that the other guys in the room have. So they're looking at it as in a season or 2, that backfield is owned by Achane and Jalen Wright.
I love that.
And I'm okay with that.
Patrick McMorris might be the only one that I really didn't.
That's the only question mark.
Yeah, I didn't do a lot of
complete one.
But Anthony Weaver's obviously
got for me, James Williams was still on the board. So, my heart was just, hey, keep him in Miami. We have the need. Just take James Williams.
He's more of a linebacker, though, and, like, he's not a middle necessarily. He's more of an off-the-ball. So
He's that tweener Isaiah Simmons, less
Exactly.
athletic style. Okay, whatever. It just would have been nice to, see it. So that's the one. But we got
One
that
of
out of
my,
our system.
One of my favorite picks that you guys got was tight end Hayden Rucci out of Wisconsin.
The undrafted free agent.
Undrafted. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Super
really
talented
solid
kid.
UDFA pick. And I've come to start to trust Greer and the Dolphins with their UDFA picks because every now and then they do have one or two guys that really kind of start for them. But we're going to start giving you guys Dolphin-specific and Cowboy-specific episodes so we don't have to drone on with you guys this whole time. If you've stayed here, we appreciate it. We love you. Hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. TulsiRoseTea.com is the sponsor. At ProFootball_pod on Twitter and all the socials. We'll see you guys later. Tune in for all the fantasy stuff we're about to drop this summer. Peace out.
Maybe the Cowboys can get someone from the XFL. We're looking.
Just sign The Rock.
For real.